Hey TD Superheroes, my name is Alejandro Perez, your sidekick, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at transferring weights onto this character rig if we have the weights available. So right now I don't have anything in there, but I can go in and select the head weights. Open, and then it gives us the path, which we can actually use to connect the weights that we're working with. So we're going to add a function over here that is going to be transfer weights. So, and we can do it actually before we do that. Let's say we've already bound the skeleton here. So let's do it right after that. We're going to call it, oops, it's all caps, transfer weights. And then let's just define that up here. And I'll copy this just in case. And then right now I'm just going to pass. So we're going to transfer the weights here. Let's take a look at the weights right here. So it's going to be an add selection. You can see that the type that we're doing is a file. I just want to show you guys really quick how we get that file path. So here we go to type file, and in the button we're running update path, which is right underneath it. There we go. So we're saving a variable called file dialog2. We have the file mode being 1 and the caption select weights file map. So basically, let's look at this command over here. So we have the file type. Was that the command? Oh, file mode, sorry. File mode. So file mode, it says any file, whether it exists or not, it would be 0. So you can create a path to that if you wanted to. Then a single existing file, which is what we're using right now. You can also do the name of a directory. Both directories and files are displayed in the dialog. Name of the directory, only the directory is displayed, or the name of one or more files. So if we just wanted a folder, we could do that too, but we're just getting the direct file. So that's why we're using mode 1. And then caption, that's just going to be kind of the name on the top of the window. Then we are editing the text inside of the window. So that way, when we see it over here, it updates it and uses the variable that we saved out here, which is basically that file path. So that's how we're going to get access to the file path. And since I have this here, let's copy it because we're going to need access to that field. And we're creating it here. So let's do that already. So let's create a variable called path. And it is going to be equal to the text field. We're going to query this time, and text equals true. There we go. So that should give us the path name. Now we need to be able to get the weights. So there are a couple different methods of getting the weights out. So the traditional way that you've seen people and me do is go here, paint weights, which will work both ways, but the export weight maps right here inside of the skin method. It's going to export a set of images for each joint and associated them with weight based off of the color and the UVs, which is okay if you have UVs, but if you go to deform and you export weights here, it actually exports the weights to the point data, and it exports a XML file. So you can choose what deformer you're doing. So in our case, we want to get the skin weights. You'd select the path. I already have one saved out. You'd write it there. Then you can export. And that actually saves an XML file with each point on the head and a weight for the corresponding joint based off of that. So then when we import it, we want to make sure that we do it in the deform section and not the import weights here in the skin section. So import weights, we have to get a deformer. So let's go there and import weights. And you can see with the selected head, it gives us access to the deformers. We have the skin cluster or the blend shapes. So the skin cluster deformer is what we want. We would select the file, and then we're using the mapping method index. That's fine. And if some of the names were different, you can ignore names. Right now, we know that we've kept the standard name, so we can keep that there. So if I import, oh, I didn't select the file. That's why we got an error. Import, it should import the weights, and we have a working head. And if we look at the command that was run, for that we have the deformer weights right here, and we run that command. Okay, so let's look at how to implement that with code. Okay, so what we need is to call mc.deformer weights. Then we need to get the file name. So how do we get that? Well, we have this file here, and if we look at it in here, we have the slashes that are separating it, and we know that the last index here is going to be the index that we need. So let's call this file name. It's going to be equal to path.split, and then we're going to split it by those slashes. Then after we do that, we are going to do file name is equal to, actually, we don't even need to do that. Let's just do it in a single line. We can do bracket -1, and that should give us the last item in that split. So we can do it all in one line like this, so that way we don't have to worry about reassigning the file name again. Okay, so we have the file name, so that's going to be the first thing that we need. Then we need to tell it the method, which is going to be equal to index. IM equals true, so we're importing the deformer weights. Then the shape, what we're applying it to, is going to be equal to the base head geo, but the shapes. So we have that information in our code as well, which we're going to need to grab. So it's going to be very similar to this. So let's copy this and paste it, and then we're going to modify it. So we're going to say head name, or let's call it head geo. And then we need to query the head. I think it's just called head. Oh, and the text field name, this is a variable, so we're going to actually need to get the actual text field. Let's grab both of those. I think this is like head base field underscore base underscore field. Okay, so let's go up a couple sections so that we could see where we're assigning those here. So it's base head, not head base. And then all of these end in underscore field, because if we look at the section for this, we can see that we add the underscore field to the names. So if we go and come back over here, head base is 1, and then the weights path is the other. So I'll remember base head. Let's copy base path, and then we can update that here. So we just invert this base underscore head, and then this is going to be the weights path underscore field. There we go. So we have the base head here, and then we need to get its shape node. So we can say mc.list relatives, and actually, is it relatives? I think so. Shapes lists all children of this dialog node that are shapes, not transforms. There we go. So we can say shapes is equal to true. So we're going to say list the relatives of head geo shapes equal true. And this is going to give us the list. There should only be one shape node there. So then we're going to say head shape is going to be equal to that. And let's uppercase the geo here, and we'll have to update this one too, just to keep that camel case consistency going. Okay, so we have the shape node there, and that is what we're going to need here, which is going to be the head shape. Then we need to get the deformer name. So it's deformer equals, and if we look at the base head here, we are calling it face blend shapes, but we don't necessarily know if it's going to be face blend shapes 1 in case it was wrong or something like that and updated in a different name. So if we look at the function here, we create a name face blend shapes here, but we have the blend names as a variable. So we can actually feed this into the transfer weight section as blend name, and then we'll call this blend shape node. And then we can say the deformer is that. And I'm curious if we're going to get the whole path. It might break it. If it does, we'll have to split it kind of the way we did the file name here. I don't know if it's going to include the head shape in there as well off the top of my head, so we'll have to look that up once we get to it. And then the last thing is going to be path equals path. And if everything is right here, we should have a way to get the weights based off of that file. And we're going to have to do a catch as well. So if there is no file, to just run it without doing anything there. But let's test to see if this works. So let's clear our scene, create the skeleton, create the rig, and we have an error. Line 152 here. Let's expand this so we can see it. It's that last line in our deform weights. It says module.maya.cmds has no attribute deformer weights. Did I misspell that? Yeah, I misspelled it. Okay, let's try again. So we can run this. Let's clear the scene and then create fake skeleton and run this. Now we have an error again. Let's see where our error is. It's still that same line. Maya command error. So it's not telling us what it is, and I'm guessing it's going to be this blend shape node. So we know that whenever we change it, so we have this over here. We have it separated by points. Let's go through and really quick just print the path to see if we have the path set the way we want. So here, right before we run this, let's print blend name. Can run all this code. Let's clear the scene, create face skeleton, and create rig. We have that same error, but we should have a command here. Okay, so it is facial blend shapes. So it is what we need. It's not a whole path directly to it. Let me pause and figure out what's going on, and then I'll come back and finish this off. Okay, I figured out what was going on. There was a couple things. So the first error that was going on was when I ran the code again, I forgot that I needed to update the path here. So it was empty, and it was trying to connect it without having the weights there to be able to be connected. So that is one of the catches that I was already saying that we needed to catch, is if there was nothing in there, which I totally escaped me when I was running it. I did a print statement here to be able to see what is going on inside of the function, to see what the variables, and I saw that this and this were empty, but we had these two variables which were fine. So the other thing is when we print out my path now, it does have the file name as well. So we need to actually split off the path only. And actually we can do it over here after we've gotten the name. So if we get my path and then we split it again, actually we don't even need to split it. We're going to say my path dot replace. I'm going to replace a file name with nothing. So that should give us the path without the file name at the end. And then let's see if this works. So let's run this again. Let us clear the scene. After we've cleared the scene, let's go ahead and select our weights file. And then we can go back here to the auto rig and create the skeleton and create the rig. Cool, we got past the weights part. And let's see if we manipulate this joint here. We have the weights. Okay, so let's do the catch, so that way if the path is empty, we're not going to do anything. So we're going to get the path here, then say if my path equals nothing, then we're going to do all of the, or actually we're not going to do all of that. We're just going to pass. Then else. Now we're going to do all of this. Boom. There we go. And I was just using this to test earlier, so I don't need that there, so I didn't have to run the whole code over and over again. Okay, so we don't have anything here in the selection right now. So let's say we create the face skeleton, then we create the rig. Oop, I misspelled my path. Okay, let's try that again. Let's clear the scene, create face skeleton, create rig. And you can see it got past that section already, so we know we don't have an error. And then we have this. So it might be nice to have a tab that is just the bonus tools. So let's say we later on had weights and we wanted to transfer them on, or we connected the whole rig and we don't want to run it again. It would be good to be able to have that set up correctly. So I am going to add that here in our window, and I'll actually add it together with the tool that we built in the previous lesson where we have the match points. So in between lessons, I'm just going to add buttons to be able to do those things specifically in the main window that we have here. So I'll add another tab, and after I have the tab, we can be able to access those things afterwards. There's a whole bunch of stuff that we can add into the bonus tools, but for right now, I'm just going to add those two things, and maybe at some point in the future, I'll add more, and I'll show you guys kind of some of the things that I broke down, just in case people want to be able to do parts of the command rather than doing the whole thing at once. But it won't necessarily be any new code. It's just going to be updating the UI to be able to run functions that we already have, or kind of modified versions of the functions. All right. So if it is modified functions, it might be slightly modified, but yeah, we will be doing, I'll be doing that in between lessons and also kind of into the future. But anyways, that's the end of this video. We'll see you guys in the next one.